Most Indians led their lives in rural poverty, as they had for centuries before the British arrived. But one man offered them a message of hope and urged all Indians to join a struggle for freedom. Mahatma Gandhi led a mass movement against British rule. Millions followed the marches and boycotts he organized in the 1930s.
If England does not grant your demands, what course of action will you follow then?
Of course, civil disobedience.
Are you prepared to return to jail again?
I am always prepared to return to jail.
After the Second World War, the British no longer had the power or will to hold on. They decided to quit India. It was the shift of power continued for another 30 years, as the people of the European empires fought to take charge of their own destinies. August 1947, the birth of a nation. With 300 million people, India was about to become the biggest democracy the world had ever known.
We made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem our pledge, not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life.
Prime Minister Nehru's speech was heard across the country. Birender Kaur was a schoolgirl in Delhi.
We all sat up that night, and then when the dawn came, I cannot describe to you how heady that feeling was. It was as though everything was new, the world was new, the trees were greener, and everything looked as though everything was just too fantastic. You felt you could do anything now that we were free.
Indians poured in to see the handover ceremonies. Satpal Saini came from his village.
14 अगस्त को तो घर में ही रहे हम, अपने खेतों में रहे.
On the 14th of August, we were working in our fields. In the middle of the night, we started our journey to the Red Fort, walking the 9 kilometers on foot. The next morning, there were over 100,000 people there, and the atmosphere was very, very happy. People were shouting slogans in praise of Gandhi. A silver coin of 1 rupee, victory for Gandhiji.
The final scene during this great moment in India's history was the ceremony of the flag in the evening. The saffron, white and green tricolour was publicly unfurled.
First the Union Jack came down. Then the tricolour went up. It's my happiest memory. For us at that time, it was something as though we were being given freedom.
The dawn of independence showed that freedom from empire did not mean freedom from bigotry and hatred. In the next few weeks, a terrible price was paid for the speed with which the subcontinent had been partitioned between Hindu India and Muslim Pakistan. Millions were caught on the wrong side of new border lines, drawn up hastily just before independence. Communities were attacked as religious hatreds flared up. Up to 30 million refugees fled, out of Pakistan or out of India, to avoid being caught in a beleaguered minority. Up to 500,000 were slaughtered. The partition and massacres horrified Gandhi, but his pleas for tolerance went ignored. In 1948, he was dead, assassinated by a Hindu extremist. Despite the ordeal of free India's birth, the nationalist leaders had shown the rest of the world what could be done. Gandhi had said that if India broke free, others would follow. He now became an inspiration for subject peoples everywhere. But the European powers saw India as an exception. They hoped to keep the imperial colours stretching round the globe from the furthest points in the Pacific and Southeast Asia, as they had done up to 1939. A fifth of the world's land surface was under imperial rule. Ultimate power over all these people's lives was still wielded by remote governments in Europe, in Belgium or Portugal, Britain or France, who were proud of their achievements.
Cet empire s'est formé lentement, patiemment, par l'effort conjugué des explorateurs, des soldats, des missionnaires, des commerçants et des colons. 1830, conquête de l'Algérie. Nous avons pris pied sur la terre d'Afrique. Après 70, ces soldats et ces marins ajoutent l'Indochine, Madagascar, la Tunisie à son domaine. Par les bienfaits de ses œuvres sociales, elle a élevé le niveau de l'instruction, de la santé et du bien-être des habitants d'un immense empire.
In the Portuguese Empire, Portugal's values came first.
A bandeira de Portugal é sempre içada no alto de um mastro pelos missionários de Cristo nas terras portuguesas das colónias. E assim os indígenas vivem tranquilos à sombra dos dois símbolos tutelares, a cruz e a bandeira da pátria. As missões e o Estado transformaram-nos em ótimos operários. O governo português, cumprindo a missão que incumbe aos povos colonizadores, dotou a colónia de escolas de artes e ofícios, onde os nativos se preparam para a vida do nosso tempo.
Just before the Second World War, a Colonial Office film showed how Britain liked to portray its role.
To guide and develop this vast empire is no easy matter. Hong Kong in the Far East, with its constantly shifting population of Chinese, presents very different problems from Fiji and the islands of the Pacific. Malaya, where the subjects of Eastern sultans live side by side with Western industrialism. Africa, home of more primitive peoples, with colonies spread from the Indian Ocean to the South Atlantic. Control of the destinies of all these colonies lies with the Colonial Office in London. It is here that all plans for the colonies are dealt with, and here all major decisions are taken.
There's a question in the House for tomorrow about nutrition in West Africa.
By 1948, with India free, other Asians in Indonesia and Indochina were fighting armed struggles for their own independence. But the Europeans were most determined to keep Africa.